7 years old when her father died, 16 with $55 to her name in a foreign country. A ruptured breast implant poisoned her body for 10 years. 2 failed marriages to powerful men. 3 children battling the same illness. This is the untold story of Yolanda Hadid's tragic life. Yolanda van den Herik was born January 11, 1964, in Papendrecht, South Holland, Netherlands, to a family of Christian background. She had one brother named Leo, and what appeared to be a normal Dutch childhood in a small western Netherlands town. She loved riding horses, milking cows, and barn activities that connected her to the simple life she would later try to recreate for her own children. But when Yolanda was 7 years old, everything changed in one devastating moment. Her father, who was only in his 30s, died in a car accident. Beneath the tragedy, left her mother, Ans van den Herik, just 30 years old herself, widowed and alone to raise 2 children. Yolanda remembers sitting in the church in her little town, looking to the side and seeing her mother, her brother, and her family all in tears. In that moment, something hardened inside the 7-year-old girl. I made the choice like, okay, I'm the one that has to be tough and strong to take care of all of them. Yolanda recalled to Larry King decades later, "This wasn't a child's temporary reaction to grief. It was a life-defining decision made without having properly mourned her father's death." At 7 years old, Yolanda appointed herself the family breadwinner and caretaker, a burden no child should carry. She questioned God about why her father had to leave her. But instead of receiving answers or comfort, a young Yolanda simply accepted her new role. Her mother, now a widow at 30, took up the challenge of becoming an independent mother, devoting her life entirely to her 2 children. But Yolanda had already decided she would be the provider, the strong one, the person who made sure they never went without. By age 13, Yolanda's determination to provide for her family manifested in a concrete way. She took a job as a dishwasher at the local Chinese restaurant. While other Dutch teenagers were focused on school, friends, and normal adolescent concerns, Yolanda was scrubbing dishes in a restaurant kitchen, earning money to help support her mother and brother. "I was very money-driven," Yolanda explained years later. "I come from a very poor family, and my dad died when I was 7. And that day I took on this huge responsibility that I was going to provide for my mother and my brother. It wasn't that I had the dream of being a model. I never wore makeup. I didn't even know what Vogue or Cosmo or Elle was because it wasn't part of my life." This admission reveals something crucial about Yolanda's entry into modeling. It wasn't glamour or fame that drew her. It was desperation and duty. A 13-year-old washing dishes because she felt responsible for her family's survival. A teenager who never dreamed of runways or magazine covers because those things existed in a world she didn't know. The modeling career that would define her life wasn't a choice driven by passion. It was a survival strategy born from childhood trauma. Yolanda's modeling career began almost by accident when she was 16. Out, she did a hair show for her friend Dorothy in Amsterdam, where she was first asked to walk in a fashion show. Dutch designer Frans Molenaar needed to replace one of his models at a show, and he asked Yolanda to fill in. That's where Eileen Ford, the legendary modeling agent, discovered her and signed her to Ford Models. What should have been an exciting opportunity was terrifying for a teenage girl who'd never left the Netherlands. After being signed in Paris and Milan, Yolanda moved into a model home in New York City, a place where rising models are given a chance to live while they build their careers. Her mother gave her 100 guilders, the former Dutch currency, which seemed like a lot of money in their small Dutch town. "When I exchanged it, I think I ended up with like $55 in my pocket," Yolanda remembered. More $55. That's what the 16-year-old had to her name when she arrived in one of the most expensive cities in the world. No safety net, no family nearby, no backup plan, just the crushing weight of responsibility she'd carried since age 7 and $55 that had to somehow become enough. For the next 15 years, Yolanda modeled across the world: Paris, Milan, Sydney, Cape Town, Tokyo, New York, Los Angeles, and Hamburg. She wasn't living the glamorous lifestyle people imagine. She was working, sending money home, and building the financial security her family had lost when her father died. "I was very motivated," she said, with characteristic understatement. In 1994, after 15 years of relentless work, 30-year-old Yolanda decided she was ready to settle down and start a family. She moved to Los Angeles after meeting Mohammed Hadid, a Palestinian-American real estate developer with his own traumatic backstory. Mohammed was born in Nazareth in 1948 and fled Palestine with his family, becoming a refugee in Syria before eventually reaching America at age 14. Mohammed had been married before to Mary Butler, with whom he had 2 daughters, Alana and Marielle. That marriage ended in 1992. When he met Yolanda, he was building his reputation, developing luxury hotels and mansions in Bel Air and Beverly Hills. The marriage combined 2 people who'd both experienced childhood loss and built themselves up from nothing. Between 1995 and 1999, they had 3 children: Jelena Gigi, born April 23, 1995; Isabella Bella, born October 9, 1996; and Anwar, born June 22, 1999. Yolanda, remembering her own Dutch childhood before tragedy struck, wanted to give her children the kind of upbringing she'd had. After divorcing Mohammed in 2000, she moved the children to Santa Barbara, California, away from the Los Angeles scene. They lived in a small farmhouse where Gigi, Bella, and Anwar grew up riding horses and running around collecting chicken eggs, often naked according to Yolanda's later recollections. She raised them very Dutch, which she defined as humble, black, and white. "Say it as it is, yet we're very polite." She wanted them to understand they were no better than anybody else, despite the wealth their father had accumulated. But the marriage to Mohammed lasted only 6 years, ending in 2000 when Anwar was just 1 year old. While Yolanda doesn't discuss the divorce in detail publicly, all reports suggest the split occurred after Anwar's birth, and may have involved disputes that would later come to light when Mohammed faced continued financial troubles, including at least 30 lawsuits in the late 1980s and early 1990s from creditors claiming unpaid obligations. In 2006, Yolanda met David Foster, a Canadian musician and record producer who'd won 16 Grammy Awards working with Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, and other music legends. He'd also been married before and had several children. The couple fell in love, dated for 4 years while living together, and got engaged on Christmas Eve 2010. They married in Beverly Hills on November 11, 2011. Yolanda became a U.S. citizen in May 2013, finally able to vote for the first time in her life at age 49. She joined the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and showcased her marriage to Foster, her relationships with her 3 modeling children, and her seemingly perfect Malibu lifestyle. But behind the cameras, something was wrong with Yolanda's health. In December 2012, Yolanda reported having a port implanted in her arm to help treat what she believed was chronic Lyme disease. By April 2013, she'd had the port removed. In January 2015, she revealed that, as a consequence of the illness, she'd lost the ability to read, write, or even watch TV. The vibrant woman who'd built a modeling career and raised 3 children was deteriorating before everyone's eyes. What Yolanda didn't know yet was that her health crisis had a specific cause beyond Lyme disease. 10 years earlier, she'd ruptured a breast implant in a water skiing fall. The leakage from that incident had traveled through her body over the years, creating 2.8 to 3 centimeter silicone granulomas in her lymph nodes, under her clavicle bone, and deep inside her chest cavity. This was creating a constant immune response and a constant feeling that something was trying to kill her from the inside out. In 2015, Yolanda underwent a 7.5-hour explant surgery where her breast implants were removed and silicone was cleaned out of her body. Before the surgery, doctors did a precise needle ultrasound mapping, locating exact areas where free-floating silicone had been detected. The surgery was documented on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and at the time, David seemed supportive. Yolanda even posted a photo of him with painted toenails as he tried to cheer her up during recovery. But that support was a lie. And in a conversation with Lisa Vanderpump that was caught on camera and aired on RHOBH. David made a cruel, sexist comment about his wife's post-surgery appearance. "Let's just say this. Ken has better tits than her now," he told Lisa, referring to her husband. This wasn't a private moment of frustration. This was David mocking his wife's medical decision to television producers and castmates, knowing it would be broadcast to millions. The comment revealed David's true attitude toward Yolanda's illness. Sources later told Radar Online that David suspected Yolanda was playing up her illness for attention. Yolanda just seemed to really enjoy all of the attention she was getting, an insider claimed. Her oldest daughter, Gigi, is becoming a very successful model, and it seemed hard for Yolanda, a former model herself, also need to watch her child get so much attention. Getting older seems to have been very hard for Yolanda. Now, it looks like she isn't ready to give up the role of sick patient. These accusations were devastating. Here was a woman who'd had silicone poisoning her body for a decade, who'd lost the ability to read and write, who'd undergone a 7.5-hour surgery to remove foreign material from her chest cavity and lymph nodes, being accused by her own husband's camp of faking it all for attention because her daughter was more famous than her. David was eventually forced to issue a public statement of support in People magazine, saying, "I have always had and continue to have the utmost respect and love for Yolanda, which is why it is so frustrating to see headlines questioning her chronic, debilitating illness." But his private comments to Vanderpump told the real story. The marriage couldn't survive. They announced their divorce in December 2015, and it was finalized in October 2017, after over a year of legal proceedings. Yolanda has stated repeatedly on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and elsewhere that she has symptoms attributed to chronic Lyme disease. However, this diagnosis is discredited and has no scientific backing according to the medical community. The Centers for Disease Control, the Infectious Diseases Society of America, and virtually every major medical organization state that chronic Lyme disease is not a recognized medical condition. Acute Lyme disease exists and is treated with antibiotics. But the idea of chronic Lyme disease, where symptoms persist for years despite treatment, is rejected by mainstream medicine as lacking evidence. Many patients diagnosed with chronic Lyme by alternative practitioners are suffering from other conditions, ranging from autoimmune disorders to the very silicone poisoning Yolanda experienced. This creates a tragic situation. Yolanda was genuinely suffering. Her symptoms were real. The silicone granulomas found during her surgery proved her body was under attack. But by attributing everything to chronic Lyme disease, a diagnosis the medical community doesn't recognize, she opened herself up to accusations of faking illness and was steered away from treatments that might have actually helped. Her castmates on RHOBH, particularly Lisa Rinna, even openly questioned whether Yolanda was truly sick or exaggerating for camera time. Rinna falsely told newcomer Eden Sassoon that Yolanda was close to death, planting seeds that weren't based in reality, but seemed designed to create drama. The fact that Yolanda had attributed her very real silicone poisoning symptoms to chronic Lyme made it easier for people to doubt everything she said about her health, making the situation even more heartbreaking. Yolanda claimed that 2 of her 3 children also have chronic Lyme disease. Her son Anwar and daughter Bella were both diagnosed, according to Yolanda. In her 2017 memoir, Believe Me, My Battle with the Invisible Disability of Lyme Disease, she wrote about the moment Anwar was diagnosed. "A wave of helplessness washes over me. I'm totally pain-stricken. How can I cure Anwar if I can't cure myself?" Bella, who wanted to be a professional horseback rider and potentially compete in the Olympics, began making mistakes and showing symptoms. She was tested and diagnosed with Lyme disease, derailing her equestrian dreams. In September 2025, Bella shared tearful photos from a hospital bed documenting another month of treatment. Yolanda responded on Instagram, writing, "There simply aren't words big enough for the darkness, the pain, and the unknown hell you've lived through since your diagnosis in 2013. You didn't really live. You learned how to exist inside the jail of your own paralyzed brain." The fact that 3 members of one family were all diagnosed with chronic Lyme disease raises medical questions. Lyme disease is transmitted through tick bites. While it's possible for multiple family members to be bitten by infected ticks, while the clustering is unusual, some medical experts have suggested that alternative diagnoses should have been explored, especially given Yolanda's silicone implant issue and the possibility of genetic or environmental factors affecting all three. Yolanda has supported her children through their health struggles while battling her own. As a mother, watching your children suffer from an illness you can't cure, especially when you're suffering from the same symptoms, creates a special kind of hell. Whether the diagnosis is accurate or not, the suffering is real, and Yolanda's fierce advocacy for her children is undeniable. On her 55th birthday in January 2019, Yolanda posted a photo to Instagram that revealed just how much removing the artificial enhancements from her body had transformed her life. 55 and smiling from the inside out. "If finally back to the original 1964, she wrote. Living in a body free of breast implants, fillers, Botox, extensions, and all that I thought I needed in order to keep up with what society conditioned me to believe what a sexy woman should look like, until the toxicity of it all almost killed me. This wasn't hyperbole. The silicone that had been traveling through her body for 10 years after the ruptured implant had created granulomas in critical areas. The constant immune response made her feel like something was killing her from the inside, because something literally was. The Botox, fillers, and extensions had all contributed to a toxic load her body couldn't handle, while simultaneously fighting silicone poisoning. Your health is your wealth, so please make educated decisions. Now, research the partial information you're given by our broken system before putting anything foreign in your body, she continued in her message. It took me many years of undoing some bad choices I made for myself before I finally found the freedom to sustainable internal beauty and acceptance of what is the best version of myself by no standards but my own. Yolanda had suffered a relapse in 2018 due to black mold exposure in her home, which she described as a big disappointment in the health department. The combination of silicone poisoning, mold exposure, Lyme, and the various fillers and implants had created a perfect storm of chronic illness that nearly destroyed her. After leaving the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in 2016, Yolanda focused on her health and her children's careers. She splits her time between an apartment in New York City and a farm in Pennsylvania, which she calls a sanctuary for her and her family. Her children still love to visit the farm when they need a break from their hectic modeling careers, connecting them back to the simple Dutch upbringing Yolanda tried to give them. In January 2018, she revealed she was dating a new man and was very much in love. In May 2020, she shared that she was in a relationship with Joseph Joey Gingoli, the CEO of a construction company. They announced their engagement in August 2024, suggesting that Yolanda has finally found the stable partnership that eluded her in both previous marriages. She previously told Larry King that she didn't think marriage was in the cards for her again, saying she hadn't been very successful at it. But perhaps the third time will be the charm. At 61 years old in 2025, Yolanda has survived more trauma and hardship than most people endure in a lifetime. Yolanda Hadid's life story is one of resilience forged in childhood tragedy, driven by a 7-year-old's promise to take care of her family, and tested repeatedly through failed marriages, chronic illness, and public scrutiny. She went from $55 in her pocket at 16 to a reported net worth of $45 million. She raised 3 children who became successful supermodels. She survived 10 years of silicone poisoning and the removal of all the artificial enhancements that nearly killed her. But the cost was high. 2 failed marriages to powerful men who didn't support her when she needed it most. 3 children battling mysterious chronic illnesses. Years of her life lost to debilitating symptoms that made her unable to read, write, or watch television. Public accusations of faking illness for attention. A body that had to be stripped of all the things she thought she needed to be beautiful before she could finally be healthy. Beauty has no meaning without your health, Yolanda wrote. It's a lesson she learned the hardest way possible. The sad life of Yolanda Hadid isn't sad because she failed. It's sad because she succeeded at everything society told her to do, and it nearly killed her.